What's up, Geeksters? It's me, Omar from geeksforlabs.com, and today's video is brought to you by Sell Cashier, and they compare iPhone prices to get you top dollar for your used iPhone. So if you'd like to sell your iPhone, check out the link in the description below. So the product I'm going to be reviewing for you today is something that was sent to me free for review from Jaybird, and today we have the Jaybird Freedoms. So they sent me a pair I've been using for about a week now, so I'm ready to give you guys my full thoughts on what I think about the Jaybird Freedoms. So let's first check out and see what's included in the box, and then I'll actually talk about the earphones themselves. So let's go do that now. So like all of Jaybird's products, the unboxing experience is very nice. It comes in a really high quality box, packaged very nicely. And let's talk about what's included inside this gorgeous looking box. So first off is 3 sets of earwings. I have 2 of them showing in here because the other 2 are actually on the earphones themselves. And these will give you a really good chance to have a good size fit in your ear whenever you want to do active things and jump around a lot. This is what's going to keep those earbuds inside your ear. After that, we have the shirt clip and the ties that go behind your neck. So this is what you use to kind of cinch up that cable and make it to where it's nice and tight behind your back or behind the back of your head, so it doesn't fall off or move around while you're being active. After that, we have 3 sets of silicone tips, and obviously you see 2 right here because the other 2 are actually on the earphones right now, and so they go from small to large. Also included is some nice comply ear tips, which is 3 sets of those, so small, medium, large. This will do a really good job of isolating that sound inside your ear, and hopefully you can find a good fit with one of those 3 sizes. Also included is the recharging cable. This is a micro USB to regular USB, and it's probably about a 2-inch cable, so it's very short, very small, very easy to carry in the included pouch, which I have right here. So here's a nice soft pouch that included in it. It has like a little top part here that snaps open and close. Make sure you can keep all the different pieces together with you in this pouch right here, including the earphones themselves. Next, we have the charging cradle, which is what you use through the micro USB cable I just showed you to charge up the earphones. And this is also an adapter, so you can snap this to the earphones to give you 4 extra hours of battery life. And last but not least, of course, we have the earphones themselves. So let's go ahead and talk about this pair of earphones in great detail. And we're going to talk about comfort, fit, and sound quality. So let's get to that now. So let's first get into the build quality. So here we have the Freedoms right here. So this design of these are so much smaller than the X2s, and but they're made of really high quality materials still nonetheless. So if you guys are familiar with the Jaybird X2s, those are really made well. These are meant to be active or meant to be worn while being active. They're sweat resistant. The tips now are metal, so this is now a metal piece right here. It comes to like a really nice flange, and the size is very small. It's much smaller than the X2s. I actually have a pair of X2s right here, and so you guys can compare. So I think that's one of the main things that Jaybird was trying to do when I was talking to them with them at CES in January when they announced these. They kind of made it seem how I guess some people find these to be quite large and bulbous and not working in their ears. So those with smaller ears, or maybe females as well, want something a little bit smaller, sexier, and thinner, and that's where this came into play. And so they didn't skimp on the materials. Like I said, this is metal housing right here. The flange is also metal. The cable is now not a flat wire cable; it's a rounded wire cable, which I actually kind of prefer. And you can see here's a controller that's still made of plastic, but you want that to be lightweight because you don't want it to be too heavy on the end right here. And so the cable, even though there's round wire, it can still be cinched up with the clips that they use, so you can put it behind your head. And then all the other materials are what you would come to expect from Jaybird. So we have the ear wings right here, which are still the nice stiff silicone, and then the silicone tips and also the compli tips. Everything feels nice, high quality. This is a pair of $200 earbuds. And you do not want to be feeling, when they're in your hands, to be thinking to yourself, man, these don't really feel like $200 pair of earbuds, but they definitely hold up and they feel very nice high quality. So the build quality definitely gets a check mark from me. So now let's get into the next category, which is comfort and fit. Okay, so when we get into comfort and fit, this is where it gets a little interesting for me. So like I mentioned earlier, the main reason why Jaybird kind of released the Freedoms, in my opinion, is because they were probably looking for something a little bit smaller than their X2s, which is right here. The X2s have been my go-to Bluetooth earbuds for, since they came out, and even before that, it was the X1s. So I really like the large, huge, bulbous tip that's on the X2s right here. I prefer the X2s over the Freedoms. And like I said, when I first was talking to Jaybird about this at CES, about the size, it kind of, like I said, it seemed like they made this decision to make the Freedoms because they needed something a little bit smaller than the X2s. So that's why they have this smaller tapered end. And as you can see, the other thing that is also different about these two is the controller. So the controller on the Freedoms is much larger than the controller on the X2s. So here we have the smaller one on the bottom here. We have the X2s right here, and this top one here is the Freedoms. So that right there is kind of an issue for me, because the Freedoms are so small that they almost don't stay in my ear as well. And when you add the fact that it has a larger controller like this, it almost kind of prevents me from keeping it into my ear because it's a little bit extra weight. When you have the X2s, it's a much smaller, tapered, slimmer design. And so that's the one thing I had that's been the issue with the Freedoms for me, is trying to keep them in my ears. Now, like I said, of course, this is made for smaller ears, in my opinion. This isn't made for everybody. It's not like you decide, well, like the X2s and the Freedoms are going to be, anyone can pick either one. In my opinion, you go for the Freedoms because you want the smaller ear tip. You go for the X2s if you need a larger ear tip. That's kind of how I have been looking at it. The one big caveat to that, though, is sound quality, which we'll get into in just a second. That's where these two big time differ for the time being, because the X3s will be coming out soon enough. But right now, currently, the X2s and Freedoms are the lines that Jaybird's offering. So when it comes to the Freedoms, like I mentioned, I had some issues trying to keep them in my ears because they're so small. They're so difficult to keep it in the ear. Even with the same ear hooks that I use on my X2s, they just didn't want to stay in my ear. And the other thing I was noticing too is because of the angle of the tips right here, because it kind of it doesn't go straight down like the X2s, it kind of angles out. It would go into my ear just fine, but then the weight of the earphone would pull down a little bit, and then that fin would pop out of the top of my ear, and they would slip out of my ear. And that was especially the case on the right side because of the controller. The other thing to keep in mind too is that when you do add the little adapter here for the charging adapter, which is also the extra battery pack that adds 4 more hours to the battery life, that's quite a bit of bulk that's adding there, and that's especially when it's so close to your right ear. That could pull it out of your ear if it doesn't have a nice snug fit to it as well. So that's one thing to consider. That, like I said, if they don't already fit you snug and not move out around as it is, they're already kind of sliding out a little bit. This is definitely going to cause them to come out of your ear because it's adding a little bit more bulky weight to it. So I kind of don't like the way this is such a large thing here. I understand that to make these smaller, they have to obviously decrease the battery size. The controller is already a little bit larger than when the X2s came with, but it has to be that way because there's more stuff inside of it. So the addition of the extra piece right here, that's just one thing to consider. For me, it's not a big deal because I don't use my headphones for like extended long hours of time. If I'm using it, I'll use it at the gym or when I'm working or doing yard work or something like that, and that's like 2-3 hours max. But the fact that the fact that they're 4 hours without it, I think it's fine. I know some people are going to complain about it. They're going to want to have more hours. This will give you 4 more hours, but just keep in mind that there is a trade-off that it's going to be adding a little bit more bulk or weight to it if you do need to have that extra battery pack. So when it comes to comfort of fit in comparison to the X2 and the Freedoms, I definitely prefer the X2s because they fit my ear better. They don't fall out. They stay in place. I can jump around, play basketball, do CrossFit workouts, whatever it is, and they stay in my ear. They don't go anywhere. I didn't have the same experience with the Freedoms. They're a little bit tinier. They don't stay in my ear as well. But when it comes to like someone small like my wife is very petite. She hates using the X2s because she says they never stay in her ear. This works perfect for her because they're much smaller, much more. The tip has much less weight on it, much less bulk, and this is what she likes to use. So that's how I would come at this. If you're looking for the perfect fitting earphones, if you like smaller earbuds, it's probably going to be the Freedoms. If you're a big guy, a mongoloid as my wife likes to call me, you're probably going to like the size of the X2. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But there is one area where the Freedoms will completely blow away the X2s, and that's when it comes to sound quality, especially in conjunction with the app. So let's talk about that next. Alright, so now let's talk about sound quality, and this is really where the Freedoms completely blow the X2s out of the water, and that's because of the use with the application here. So the thing about it is, when you buy a pair of Beats by Dre and other pairs of headphones, they're going to be tuned a certain way. So maybe you'll like the sound signature of the Beats by Dre. You want tons of bass. Maybe you want something a little bit more treble or more not neglecting the mids and such. That's why some other earphones are better than others. The thing that's completely innovative and I never heard possible with any other Bluetooth earbuds is that I can do whatever I want to do with all these different presets, and it'll hardwire it into the headphones, and when I disconnect it from my phone and go to my computer, it'll have the same sound audio signature to it because it's hardwired into the earbuds, which is completely awesome. So it doesn't matter what I'm using my iPhone, if I'm using my Apple Watch, if I'm using my iMac, if I'm using my laptop, it doesn't really matter. The sound signature will stay the same no matter what device it goes to. And the other cool thing too is you can actually sync it with too. So when I'm at work, I'll sync it to my phone. So if I get any phone calls, I can answer my phone calls on my earbuds. But I'm listening to music off my iMac, I can be synced up to both of them at the same time. So while I'm listening to music on my iMac, I can switch straight over to the phone, answer the phone call, and go back to listening to music on my iMac between the two, which is really cool. I don't think I've ever seen that being possible with any other earbuds. So really cool innovation that Jaybird has really cooked into this pair of earbuds. This is the app. It's pretty simple, straightforward. There's a bunch of presets in here so you can see the way the wavelengths go, they jump around. I have 2 of them here. I have one for hip hop, one for jazz. You can customize the way the picture is. Those are just pictures off of my camera roll. And you can pick a bunch of different ones here. You can also discover different people to see what their presets are. You can add them to your device as well. And like I said, you can also completely customize it. So if I go to the completely flat, that's normally what it starts out with, if you go to customize, now you can specify how you want your audio to be. It's really intuitive. If you turn it on its side, it gives you a little more space to play around with it and to see what you want to do. So you can control the width, the peaks, the valleys. You can totally get really creative and you can do this while you're listening to your music to know what it's going to sound like while you're playing with it. And if you realize that, oh, you know what, I like the way it sounded earlier, it has a little timeline on the bottom here, so it keeps track of all the different changes and tweaks you make to it while you're doing it. So that way, if it sounded a little better earlier, you can go back to the timeline, do whatever you want to do. You can go here, save it, add a title, call it whatever you want to call it, switch out the picture of it for the main part right here, and that photograph will be custom to whatever you want to call it. So really awesome. This is where the freedoms shine. Even though the fit was not that great for me personally, it'll probably be fine for you. But this is why this earbuds is $200. This is because the sound quality is going to be excellent. It's going to sound exactly how you want it. It's not leveled exactly how the company wants it to sound. If you like a lot of bass, you can have a lot of bass. If you want something with really good mids and lots of highs for certain types of music, you can totally tweak that as well. You can have multiple presets for whatever you want to listen to. So for me, that's the big seller for this pair of earbuds. And I'm really looking forward to the X3s whenever they come out, because they'll be very similar to the Freedoms in the way that they use the app. And then I'll know for sure that those will fit my ears perfectly. So if your ears are really tiny and small, you may want to wait out. Or if your ears are really large and big like mine, you may want to wait out for the X3s because they'll have a better fit, because it will work with the app. If your ears are smaller, maybe the Freedoms will be perfect for you. So anyways, guys, that is why this pair of earbuds is a little bit higher priced. $200 is quite a bit of money to pay for a pair of Bluetooth earbuds. But I don't know, just the fact that you can bake in the sound into the earbuds and use them on anyone else's device, and it'll still sound exactly how you want them to sound. That's pretty cool. I don't think any other earphones does that currently. So definitely go check out the Freedoms from Jaybird. I think you guys will be really pleasantly surprised on how well they sound. Well, that concludes this review, guys. So I just want to give another shout out to our sponsor, SrJaZk. If you guys are looking to get cash for your used iPhones, very simple, fast, and secure. You just go to their site. You get a quote, you ship your phone to them, and then you get paid. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions about the product I showed you today, make sure you post them down in the comment section. I read each and every comment in all of my videos, and I always get back to you guys as quick as possible. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you show some love to that like button down below. And if you want to stay up to date with all of my videos on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video review.